The few students who remain over the summer attend extra lectures during the day or prepare on their own for the next academic year, and in the evening, they invariably visit local bars and nightclubs. Among these students was Ellie Costial. She was an upperclassman and stayed on campus over the summer to improve her knowledge in certain subjects. Recently, she passed an important exam for her class, Introduction to Retail, at summer school, and was planning to celebrate this with her friends. A small bar with pizza and daiquiris on Oxford Square is particularly popular among the youth, so it's always filled with people and resembles an eternal party. The dim light, loud music, and a rainbow selection of various drinks make it a place where bartenders know many of the customers by name. On the evening of July 19th, Ellie Costial met up with friends at this bar. They talked and had fun, but Ellie seemed tense and spent the whole evening messaging someone on her phone. Then she had a couple of cocktails and discreetly left. This was one of the last places where Ole Miss student Ellie Costial was seen in public. On July 20th, 2019, around 10:30 a.m. during their routine patrol, police officers discovered the body of a young woman. It was found near an abandoned fishing camp by Sardis Lake, approximately 30 miles from the university. At the scene, the victim was found with 9 gunshot wounds to her back. Investigators collected 11 shell casings at the scene. A purse containing a driver's license and a student ID belonging to 21-year-old Alexandria Costial, a University of Mississippi student, was found nearby on the roadside. Alexandria Costial, affectionately known by friends and family as Ellie, was born on September 11, 1997, in St. Louis, Missouri. A blonde-haired little girl, she grew up surrounded by the care and love of her mother, Cindy, and father, Keith. Her parents supported all her endeavors in learning new things. Ellie excelled academically and in sports, participating in track and field and golf. She loved adventures and traveling, but her dream was to attend the University of Mississippi. This special place, with its traditions and new student life, was her dream destination. Her dream came true, and she became a student at the legendary Ole Miss. Ellie lived in a dormitory in Oxford, Mississippi, and was popular among her peers. Friends and relatives praised Ellie, describing her as a lively and energetic person who greeted everyone with a smile. The tragic loss was a shock to the close-knit community of the lovely girl and her fellow students at the University of Mississippi, as investigators worked tirelessly to uncover the facts. Ellie's father confirmed the tragic news of her death in a Facebook post on Sunday. Yesterday, on Saturday afternoon, the Sunset Hills, Missouri, police visited us and informed us that our beautiful dear Alexandria, our sweet Ellie, was the victim of a crime, wrote Keith Costial. She was attending summer school and taught fitness at the University of Mississippi in Oxford, Mississippi. She graduated from Lindbergh High School in 2016. She was just 21 years old. "We are deeply saddened," said Interim Chancellor of the University of Mississippi Larry Sparks in a statement to Today. Ellie was a valued member of our student community. Lafayette County investigator Jarrett Bundren told CBS on Saturday morning, a white female was found on the ground with multiple gunshot wounds to her back. "I'm working on this case and it's heartbreaking, the girl who was shot so many times." According to sources, a local resident walking their dog reported hearing gunshots early in the morning between approximately 2:15 and 2:30 a.m. Initiating an investigation, police immediately gained access to the rented apartment where Ellie Costial lived. Although the victim's phone was missing, her Apple Watch was discovered in the room. Witness interviews revealed that a few days before the incident, Ellie's parents had visited her from St. Louis, and she had shared with them how eagerly she was looking forward to the start of the new academic year at the university and had no regrets about staying on campus for the summer. Data from the Apple Watch also showed that after a phone conversation with her mother, the young woman sent several messages to someone named Brandon Theisfeld. Upon examining the messages, detectives learned that 3 months prior to the incident, Ellie had shared shocking news with Brandon. Since Brandon was the last person known to have communicated with the victim, he became a subject of interest to the police. Further examination of their messages revealed that Ellie and Brandon had been in an on-and-off romantic relationship. Brandon Theisfeld, a tall, dark-haired young man with an athletic build, was also a student at the University of Mississippi. He hailed from Fort Worth, Texas, and was raised in a well-mannered family. In 2016, as a freshman, Ellie met Brandon and immediately fell for him. The young people started dating, but they never officially declared themselves as a couple. While Ellie's feelings for Brandon were sincere, he never demonstrated the seriousness of his intentions towards her. Ellie's friends reported that their relationship was not always smooth. They often argued, including in public. Ellie and Brandon would periodically break up, but then they would be seen together again after some time. On April 12, 2019, Ellie wrote to Brandon that she had taken a pregnancy test and the result was positive, but she received no reply from him. She bombarded him with text and voice messages, but her boyfriend ignored her. Exactly 3 months later, he finally responded, "I don't want a child at all. Seriously, it will ruin my life. I can't help you with this and I don't plan to. It's still very early. Just take a pill or make a doctor's appointment and deal with the issue." Ellie, deeply in love, desperately wanted to meet in person to discuss the situation, but Brandon continually refused. On the fateful Friday of July 19th, Ellie went to a local bar with her friends. At 11:52 p.m., surveillance cameras captured her leaving the bar. She got into a taxi and went home. About 30 minutes later, she received a call. It was Brandon. At 1:58 a.m. on July 20th, Ellie got into Theisfeld's car for her last ride. They headed to an abandoned fishing camp by Sardis Lake. According to police reports, the drive down the dark road to the location was supposed to take about 45 minutes. Witnesses reported clearly hearing gunshots in that area between 2:15 and 2:30 a.m. Investigators contacted Brandon Theisfeld on Sunday afternoon and asked him to come to the station to talk about Ellie Costial. He found some convincing reasons to avoid coming, but assured the detectives he would meet them on Monday at 8:30 a.m. on Monday, July 22, 2019. After Brandon Theisfeld failed to appear at the police station, investigators began to track his phone. Location data showed that Brandon was heading to his home in Fort Worth, Texas. Authorities issued a BOLO, be on the lookout, for his pickup, which had a distinctive license plate with TAC 3IT. They also alerted all nearby police stations, and the suspect was arrested when he stopped at a gas station in Memphis. 2 days later, 22-year-old Brandon Theisfeld was placed in a local jail and charged with homicide. Theisfeld's lawyer and father claimed he was innocent. As the Oxford community grappled with the violent loss of one of their own, Ellie Costial's death quickly captured the nation's attention. Reporters eager to learn more about the student and the person charged with her death flocked to Oxford from across the country. Brandon Theisfeld insisted on his innocence until the end, but the evidence against him was more than sufficient. During his arrest, a gun matching the caliber used in the shooting near the lake was found in his possession. His car contained stained clothing, later determined by forensic analysis to be bloodstains belonging to the victim. It was established that after July 12th, Brandon had left Oxford to go home to Texas to retrieve his father's gun, allowing the prosecution to argue that the act was premeditated. His internet search history contained queries such as abortion services and abortion pills. It was later found that each time he agreed to meet Ellie, he canceled at the last minute or failed to show up without explanation. His search history also included queries on how to avoid punishment for a crime, how to conceal a crime, and how to use a weapon. A letter addressed to his parents was discovered in Theisfeld's apartment stating, "I am not a good person. This is not your fault. Something in me just doesn't work. I've always had terrible thoughts. I've always had these feelings. I just felt out of place. I think this is the end for me. I'll either go to jail or die. I know I'll get caught." On August 30th, 2019, a grand jury charged Brandon Theisfeld with the life-taking of Alexandria Costial. Yet again, he refused to accept responsibility for the incident. Brandon faced the ultimate penalty, capital punishment. However, the trial was postponed due to the widely known restrictions in place at the time due to the COVID-19 pandemic. On August 27, 2021, when the process resumed, Brandon Theisfeld, advised by his lawyer, pleaded guilty to mitigate the potential punishment. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. In his final statement, Brandon apologized to Ellie's parents. "My actions have forever changed your life, and the life of my family. I wish I could take it all back, but I can't. I pray for God's forgiveness, and I hope you can find it in your hearts to forgive me too," he said. Cindy Costial, Ellie's mother, did not accept Brandon's apology, stating that he should spend the rest of his life in prison and that every time his cell door slammed shut, he should remember the heinous act he committed. Investigator Jarrett Bundren eventually disclosed some already known facts about such a brazen crime to the public. He explained, "Ellie had told Brandon she thought she was pregnant. Brandon didn't want her to keep the baby, and the couple had many arguments about it. Although Ellie wanted to meet in person to discuss the situation, Brandon refused to do so until the day of the incident. Intent on questioning Brandon, the police asked him to come to the station for some inquiries. However, the suspect seemed to resist and continued to make excuses for not being able to come in. Alarmed, the police began tracking his cell phone and realized that Brandon was heading to his home in Fort Worth, Texas. Immediately after locating Brandon, authorities alerted all police departments in the vicinity, and the suspect was arrested when he stopped to refuel at a gas station in Memphis. Upon his arrest, authorities found blood on him. Moreover, a pistol was found in his truck, the caliber of which matched the weapon used in Ellie's demise. Although Brandon insisted on his innocence and claimed he had no part in the incident, the police ultimately charged him with the crime. 5 days after Ellie's passing, normalcy had yet to return to Funky's bar, where surveillance cameras had captured her leaving shortly before midnight on July 19th. Interviews with witnesses, who were among the last to see Ellie, revealed that the management had recently installed a camera right in front of the bar. A bartender, who preferred to remain anonymous, mentioned she had been friends with Ellie since school. Taking a break from her duties, she found the words to describe her friend. "She always smiled. She just lit up the room. She had a smile from ear to ear," she said. Ellie was the kind of person who greeted everyone. "It's just really sad. She was too kind," she said, looking away as the colorful disco lights danced on her face. "We're going to miss her." Ellie's teacher and friend, who taught the Introduction to Retail course, Morgan Hall, learned about the passing of her student the following Monday. She was shocked. "You never expect something like this to happen in Oxford and its surroundings." During the interrogation, Morgan mentioned the last time she saw Ellie around 1:15 p.m. on July 19th, when she submitted her test. "She left, and I think that evening everything went downhill," she said. "Ellie was a sweet girl, very quiet, and I liked having her in class," Morgan stated. After hearing about the student's demise, Morgan immediately went to the administrators to figure out the best way to deal with the situation. According to her, the university had students involved in suicides and fatal accidents, but this was something new. Morgan Hall briefly mentioned Ellie's passing in class. Counselors were ready to assist and were available on campus during that period. Anyone who wanted to postpone their final exams for a few days could do so if they needed time to grieve. "My heart goes out to her parents and all her friends," she said. "Parents shouldn't have to bury their children. That's not how it's supposed to work." As it turned out, Ellie Costial, in her need for support, had told friends that she was pregnant with Brandon Theisfeld's child. Her sisters knew she was pregnant and that she had told Brandon, said a classmate. He was very upset about it, about how it would ruin his life and future. He was angry that she wouldn't have an abortion. She said, "No, I don't believe in that." Another friend mentioned Ellie tried to end her pregnancy through unhealthy methods, like long walks, drinking a lot, and using forbidden substances. She was 17 weeks along. She was struggling with it. Brandon knew about it, but he was seeing someone else. He wanted her to end the pregnancy. I think morally she didn't want to, said Ellie's close friends. He was terrible, and then she would break up with him. Or he would break up with her in anger, and then come back to her saying, I'm sorry. And she always took him back. Ellie Costial's shocked friends and classmates struggled to cope with the news, and paid tribute to their friend on social media. "It's just hard for me because when I see her face, all I can think about is what she went through, what she thought, what she said," said her friend Anna Pasco. "It's very, very difficult." On Twitter, one of Ellie's classmates wrote on July 23rd that for years, they had to listen to Ellie and discuss in detail the issues between her and Brandon. "He pursued her for many years, using her for his own interests during that time. I spent countless nights holding Ellie, wiping her tears as she cried over this monster for many years," said the now deleted post. "You deserve hell, a disgusting excuse for a person." Rex Ravita, a former dorm neighbor of Theisfeld's, shared in an interview that the 22-year-old was a daddy's boy who said he had been seeing Ellie Costial off and on for many years just for the sake of not being bored. "I genuinely believe he emotionally manipulated her into believing he loved her just as she did him, and I think he kept her on the hook until the very last second," said Ravita. Ole Miss student Rex Ravita, a former dorm neighbor of suspect Brandon Theisfeld, later described the alleged perpetrator as misogynistic and arrogant, stating, "I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He was very much a daddy's boy. Always had to mention his father's money, how his dad could get him out of anything. Just that kind of attitude all the time. Any vulgar comment he could make, any crude remark towards anyone in our dorm, he got away with." On Thursday evening in her hometown of St. Louis, a memorial service was held for Ellie Costial. At the request of the Costials, no public statements were made in Oxford about memorial events. Only black ribbons encircling the majestic white columns of the women's houses, including Alpha Phi where Ellie lived, served as a reminder of the tragedy. The young student's demise unsettled the entire state. Michael Cunningham, a resident of Oxford, mentioned that the case has caught everyone's attention on campus. "This is the biggest news in town since football season for a long time," said Cunningham. "It's just terrible." He expressed hope that the case could be resolved soon, so the Costial family could find peace. Despite the deliberate withholding of crucial facts for the sake of investigation confidentiality, some news agencies conducted thorough investigations and reported that surveillance cameras captured Costial on film early Saturday morning, near the location where her body was found. They reported seeing Ellie Costial with a man, who appears to be Theisfeld, at a 24-hour store in the Harmontown area. Arafat Najib, who has owned this store for about 10 years, mentioned that police officers came to the store on Sunday and asked to review the surveillance camera footage. Najib said that the investigators did not explain why they were there and took some evidence with them when they left. According to Najib, video footage is erased every 72 hours, so there's no way to go back and see what the cameras captured. The business owner stated, "We've never had any problems or violent incidents here. This is a small town. It's quiet. Everyone knows each other. This is just madness." The Lafayette County Sheriff's Office long refused to release any additional information about the progress of the investigation or to give interviews to the media. Rocky Kennedy, the Lafayette County coroner, mentioned that there's a reason officials are not saying much. "This isn't a story that everyone will see until it reaches court," he said. "Certain delicate details in this case are tools to ensure that the person who committed this act is brought before court, convicted, serves the appropriate sentence, and is held accountable for what they've done." Kennedy said the media attention on this case has been overwhelming, but it doesn't change the nature of his work. "Every case I handle is important," said the coroner. "I try to give the same attention to every family who's lost someone. They've lost someone they loved." Michelle Miller, also involved in investigating Ellie Costial's case, raised questions about missed warning signs in relationships and whether her demise could have been prevented. Brandon Theisfeld was charged with the crime. He faced the death penalty after being accused of Ellie Costial's demise and alleged abduction. Despite delays caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, justice was served. Eventually, in August 2021, he pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and received a life sentence. Judge Kelly Luther sentenced him to life imprisonment, and he will have the possibility of parole when he turns 65. Brandon Theisfeld is currently incarcerated in the Mississippi State Penitentiary in Sunflower County, Mississippi. At the trial, when the verdict was read, Brandon Theisfeld showed some emotions and sincerely admitted to his involvement in the demise of Ellie Costial. He acknowledged his guilt in the demise of Alexandria Costial and was very emotional when he apologized to both her family and his own. A significant fact in this case was the finding of the forensic examination, which established that Alexandria Costial had never been pregnant. We are left to speculate and ponder why a young and promising student at a popular university, who could have had a happy and fulfilling life, fabricated the existence of a non-existent child and spoke about it to all her friends for 3 months. It seems she sincerely believed in it and thought that this news would melt Brandon's heart and make it belong only to her. Unfortunately, a miracle did not occur. Her parents and friends are still mourning their dear Ellie.